Right. Welcome everyone to the July Town Hall. This is going to be a very special one because I think 2.5 years ago when we started doing town halls, I was all by myself alone. And then, a few months later, Maggie joined us and I had to stop worrying about doing town halls and opening the show and things like that. And today I'm back starting us off because Maggie's on a flight and I'm sure she's having some, twitches in her body with kind of the muscle memory of starting town halls, but, we'll let her enjoy her time off. But super excited to be here. And we have some amazing announcements today. So let's get started. All right. So here's the agenda. We're going to do a quick community update, a quick but very important one. And then we have a community case study. The Slack data engineering team is here. They'll be talking about what they've done with DataHub, what they're doing. Nedra is here she's a senior data engineer at Slack. And then I'll talk really briefly about some of the Snowflake Summit takeaways. The Acro team was there. And so we learned a lot on the floor as well as in the talks. And then we have a special tutorial on how to use the DataHub Actions framework by Hagen. And then we'll do a shortened version of a talk that we presented at Snowflake Summit on how DataHub enables shift-left governance for dbt and Snowflake. And just tagging on to that, we'll do a sneak peek at what we're doing with dbt for data contracts. Harshal would present that. And then finally, Professor Collins is going to give us a sneak peek at what's happening with subscriptions and notifications with the first launch happening in the Acro product. Awesome. So Maggie, of course, doesn't want to let you all go. So she did record a kickoff video, and I'm going to just play it for you. Let's do this.
Hey folks, I'm Maggie. I'm the founding community product manager of DataHub and super excited to welcome you all to our July town hall. I unfortunately cannot join you live today, but wanted to take a second and introduce you to our newest community manager, Miko. I am so excited to have Miko on board. She comes to us with years of experience in community building, in the data practitioner landscape. She's a seasoned speaker. She's a seasoned community builder. She's done everything from build a community from scratch up to 40,000 people, from scaling a community of 1 million to 4 million. She is truly a remarkable human being, leading with empathy, excited about bringing people together, and passionate about everything that she does in community building. I'm truly blown away by her energy, her enthusiasm, her ideas, her ingenuity, her grit. This woman is unstoppable. And I know that she is absolutely going to be key to us scaling from our 8,000 person community to 80,000. No pressure, Miko. It's a bittersweet moment for me because this is the first town hall that I won't be joining live over the past 2 years. But I know that you all are in fantastic hands. Miko and I are going to be working in lockstep. We'll be partnering on anything community related. I'll be focusing on product. She'll be focusing on actually connecting people together. I genuinely can't explain how excited I am to have her on board. So please join me in welcoming Miko. We have a wonderful agenda for you today. And I will be cheering you all on from the airplane in the sky on my way to my first summer vacation in a little bit. So like I said, please join me in welcoming Miko to the DataHub community. I am just so grateful for all of you all's ongoing excitement and enthusiasm about the community. And I know that Miko is really, going to feel that from you as well, but also going to help us really harness that and grow out this community to be something that honestly, I probably could have never dreamed of. So enjoy the show. Miko, I'm going to hand it over to you. I should probably go pack my bags so I can actually get on this plane and spend some time with fam. But enjoy your time. I appreciate all of you. And Miko, I will have you take it from here. Happy town hall, everybody. We'll see you.
Oh my gosh,
All
that
right.
was so awesome.
It happened. It happened. Maggie was able to take a flight on a town hall day. Awesome. So with that,
Hey, folks.
I will let Miko actually take over. So Miko, why don't you take over screen
Hello.
share?
Okay, so Shashanka did ask me to put some slides together. And I did not put anything on the slide, mainly because I'm not good at talking about myself. But I hope you guys could just tell by the enthusiasm. So maybe this will go against my 30-day, but I hope you guys could tell by enthusiasm. I'm like beyond excited to be here. So I love the energy. We are going to absolutely rock and roll. I just left Chicago. I was there for a week with Shashanka, Ben, and Maggie, living my best life. So that was the internal hashtag in our Acryl data. And so I think what's important is I do have a community background. There's all the blah, blah, blah. But more importantly, I just love humans. I love DataHub and I love all of you. So I'm excited about, we were doing some ideation last week and I'm excited about what we're about to do at DataHub. I was brought on board to make sure that we humanize and that we have a great time. And that even though we're core focused on troubleshooting and tech support, to make sure that we're also a community and family. So thank you guys for the welcome. I'm super excited. And now we are going to proceed with doing the community update. So I'm going to go ahead and share my screen. Just give me a second. Oh, and by the way, just for curiosity, because it's kind of the number one thing I get asked, people tend to ask about my heritage. So I live in Atlanta and the Caribbean. We live in the Caribbean. I'm from the Caribbean and I'm Black, Asian, and Jewish. So before you start asking about the name and the accent and all this stuff, I'm loving the multicultural situation in the comments. So welcome, welcome. All right, let's rock and roll here. So I'm gonna go ahead and share my screen. Could you do me a favor? Could you guys just give me a raise of hand if you can see my screen? Can you just hit the raise hand? Yay. Okay, good. All right, love it. Okay, guys. Okay, so I'm gonna go ahead and do, I think some of you are accustomed of this. Obviously, I'm a bit new to it, but let's rock and roll. So Maggie has handed me over to do the DataHub community updates. There's a couple of project updates. Shashanka is going to do that. And then I'm going to do some community shout outs because you guys absolutely rock. So we're super excited to see the engagement. Even though we know it's July and people are on vacation, we're beyond excited about those of you who are like, we call you guys like the day ones, the fam, right? Hanging in there, replying to threads. Okay, so let's go ahead and get started. Okay, so in terms of our community snapshot, guys, guess what? No news here. We are growing, right? Thanks to you. So with that said, make sure you invite a friend to DataHub. The more, the merrier. And so we're bridging around 8,300 probably by, by the time I finish saying this. But let's just say people like DataHub. So big thanks to everybody. We have about over 1,000 weekly active users. So obviously we want to keep seeing that number go up. We appreciate you guys. Over 6,000 messages posted. So again, I know it's middle of summer, so we appreciate it. I think usually we have a little bit more, but we're super excited to see the engagement during the summer. And then you guys are happy on the emojis. I love emojis, so you're going to see a lot of those. I think Maggie's heavy emoji language. Anybody here proficient in emoji language? I do a lot of emoji language. So you're going to see me speaking emoji language. So we had quite a bit of those. So thank you guys so much for helping to grow DataHub. I will say as well that we spent some time, I'll mention here really quickly, with Shashanka in the last 2 days, updating our Acryl LinkedIn page. And so a little bit of a hint is one of the things we're looking at for August is we are going to be moving our town halls to LinkedIn Live. So we're actually hoping you guys will run over there, show us some love, and we will be live on there and kind of inviting the broader data community because the momentum within the community is awesome. All right, and then so let's take a look at support volume. And Maggie explained to me that this is super important, so you guys could see that we are being responsive. And so we have about an average of 41 of our PRs that have been open the last month. It's a little bit lower, so versus the previous period. Again, July is super vacation mode, right? But with that said, we still have about 546 messages, support messages in the last month. So again, July is a little bit of a transition month, but we're super excited that we're getting these PRs handled, and we appreciate everybody helping and pitching in. So yeah, so any comments on this, go ahead and talk in the chat. But with that said, I'm going to go ahead and hand it over to Shashanka. So Shashanka, do you want me to just scroll over?
Just keep going. Yeah, I'll speak over it.
All right, great. Okay, so I'm handing Shashanka for the project updates. Let's rock and roll.
Cool. So interesting. This last month has been a little bit strange in a few different ways. One, of course, summer. But the other thing that happened very recently is we're having some strange CI failures in terms of just concurrency challenges with some of our interactions with the backend. And the team is kind of pretty much, a few of us are all our hands on the keyboard on that particular problem. And it's taking a little longer than we had anticipated to fixing it. And that's kind of one of the reasons why we've been able to merge fewer PRs in July than in previous months. We actually have quite a bit of backlog that has built up as a result. Don't worry, we're actually looking at all of them, and we've kind of done preliminary internal reviews of them already. So we're anticipating to clear out most of the backlog as soon as this CI issue is fixed. So you'll probably see a big uptick in August, kind of as a downdraft from the fewer PRs that we merged in July. I'm super excited that 0.10.5, or it might even be 0.11. We're kind of deciding that right now based on some changes we might want to make in how we organize the backend. And we're seeing like the same kind of strong contributor, all hands on keyboard. Yes, indeed. All your hands are on the keyboard. So we have a bunch of first-time committers, and usually, there's this large number of repeat committers, and we're looking forward to seeing all of your contributions come in as well. Cool. So moving on, in terms of project updates, things that I'm really excited about. You saw the unified search and browse experience. It's actually rolling out. The moment we cut the release, it'll be there. Of course, it's feature flagged, so you can turn it off. You can play around with it before you finally turn it on. We've made some small changes to display everywhere, small changes to how glossary terms work. Mostly, it should all be just improvements to things you're already seeing. One thing I'm super excited about is finally being able to visualize column level lineage through data jobs. That's something that we've heard multiple times. People love column level lineage in DataHub, but it only today works beautifully if you've got dataset to dataset lineage. If there's a data job in between, it kind of breaks. So we fix that problem. And then on the developer experience side, we've kind of shared some of this in the past. It's all finally coming to fruition in the code. So a bunch of these things are going to be landing soon. All right, next up, metadata ingestion. Big news. The SQL parsing library that Harshal demoed last time for BigQuery source is now available in the ingestion code base, so you can start using it. It was interesting. I was just connecting with Nedra before the town hall, and she has some interesting SQL parsing that she's doing over at Slack, and there might be some interesting ways that she can actually start depending on this for her SQL parsing needs as well. And we are bringing that to all of the connectors now. So BigQuery has it, and a few of the other connectors are going to get that as well. And for the connector-specific improvements, there's a bunch. The usual big warehouses like BigQuery. We've done some improvements on log ingestion. Snowflake now supports lineage for S3 and SnowPipe, as well as column-level lineage parsing for view definitions, and a host of improvements across the other connectors as well. Cool. Moving on to the next one. Back to you, Miko.
By the way, guys, the love in the DMs and the comments is insane. Like, I cannot wait to meet you guys. I hope you guys are planning to come. We haven't announced our conferences yet, but let's just say DBT coalesce. I'm expecting some hugs. I'm going to be the swag ladies, but the DMs are insane. You guys are amazing. This is awesome. Okay. Let me go focus here, right? Want to stick around past my 30 days. Shashanka's getting distracted by all the love in the comments. Okay. Let me pin myself. Okay. So talking about comments, community shout outs. So I told you guys during the summer, I think we are beyond grateful that you guys are in here commenting. So forgive me if I mess up any names here, but we have some amazing interaction. I think it's Lu Xianglong. I don't know if you're on here. Thank you so much to Nicola, Kasev, Sashin, Raj, you guys, thank you so much. Wait, hold on. There's another, Patrick. I mean, this is just a list of people. We just are super grateful. So whether you've contributed 10 threads or replied to one thread, as you guys know, we're only so big and we cannot do this without the DataHub fam. So, please feel free to interact if you haven't. We appreciate every response, and that's what makes a good community. So let's just give everybody a round of applause. Let's round of applause here. Thank you guys so much. I think this is super awesome. All right, so now that we have done with community shoutouts, booyah, we have the big reveal. Let me go ahead and get Nedra on the screen. So guys, we have something really special. So the cool part about this case study is that this week we're going to be talking to Nedra, who I'll bring up, Albrecht. Hope I didn't butcher her name, from Slack. And it's so funny because one of her slide elements, the first one is like, what is Slack? And I kind of said, Nedra, if they don't know what Slack is, I'm not sure this is the right Zoom or town hall. So we're excited because she's gonna tell you guys about how Slack is using DataHub for discovery and metadata. So without further ado, let me stop my share here. And Nedra, let me get you pinned up on the screen here. Guys, let's give her a round of applause. Come on, big welcome, clap the hands, either emoji or clap. And let's welcome Nedra on the screen. Hey, Nedra.
Hello. Hi, thanks for having me. Let me share my screen real quick.
Absolutely, let's rock and roll. And guys, again, you can go ahead and post your comments in the chat for Nedra.
Yes. So great. Thank you so much for having me. I'm so excited to be here and to meet all of you virtually. My name is Nedra Albrecht. This is the agenda I'm going to cover today. I'm going to talk about, who I am, what we've tried, a little bit about our ecosystem, which is fairly typical, follows a lot of best practices, problems that we have that are probably pretty common to everyone, and then how DataHub has really helped us, and then why we are super stoked. Myself especially, I am super stoked about this tool. So I have 10 to 15 minutes, and hopefully I will not go long because I love to talk about this stuff. So who am I? I joined Slack in 2021 as a senior data engineer. Prior to that, I was at Zillow, and then I've been in the industry a long time. Within the group, we have it broken up by ingestion, infrastructure, and then what's called metrics foundation, where we focus on data modeling and metrics generation, experimentation metrics, things that both feed our data science group as well as other parts of the org. Like I mentioned, I've been in the industry a long time. I have been in the industry since forever, and it's always been on the data side. I am not an SDE by training. I have only ever worked with data. I do have SDE skills now, but my experience is with metadata in depth. And because of that, I am so passionate about data. I have spent so many years trying to solve a lot of the problems that we'll talk about here. And it is really interesting and fun to me to be able to use this tool. So I'll talk just a little bit to give you context about how our data ecosystem is set up. It'll probably look very familiar to a lot of you. We have our application layer where we emit data to both Kafka, and we have a backend system that we use to pull data over as well into the data warehouse. We land that data in an S3. We use AWS as our processing layer. We have Hive Metastore on top of that, very typical. And then we use Airflow to process our data, Presto for general querying, Spark for our heavy lifting of our pipelines, and then some internal tooling that is used to do things like querying and sort of some basic metadata management. And while this feels like a very sort of best practice, typical sort of warehouse construction, where I think things get complicated in my experience is that there's this data context layer on top of it. And it's often sort of feels like we're we don't see that. If we just get our system architecture right, it's just going to magically come together. But really, there's a lot of complexity I have found here. We have both a backend it's in Vitesse, but it's like a MySQL derivative. We use a traditional sort of eventing structure where it's using a thrift schema, and that's emitted over to Kinesis. We have several layers in there, including Secor and Muron. Not going to belabor that point. We copy our data from Vitesse using an homegrown tool called Scooper, which is based on Scoop. Anyways, we're moving a lot of data, as you probably well can understand. But that That data then generates additional metadata, both at the Hive and AWS layers and others. And then we have all of our sort of standard things that people also have, like the data pipelines, the data tables, the queries, the dashboards, all these things that we all have, right? And usually they're very disjointed. We don't know exactly what's going on, and there's connections to them, right? There's like the pipelines connect to other pipelines, and they connect to tables and queries and dashboards, and it gets very complicated very quickly. And on top of all of that, we still, we have this is what's actually implemented, but we have the aspirational thing of like, what do we want to implement? What's our definitions? It's usually stored in a spreadsheet somewhere. And what does it mean? And it's stored in someone's head somewhere. And we have a difficult time understanding what is actually happening within our data system. And I expect, and I've experienced this at a lot of places, this is a very complicated problem to solve. So what have we tried? We've tried a lot of different things over the years. We have very talented engineers who've tried a lot of different things, and we've tried just creating simple dashboards for ourselves based on like pulling directly from like an Airflow backend. We've created internal tooling to sort of harvest that data. We've tried both push and pull methodologies, one of which was using the OpenSearch and Marquez implementation, where we were going to set up the inlet outlets on that. We've tried parsing queries using various Antler parsers. We've tried a lot. And what we've learned is a lot of things. Lineage is a hard problem to solve. I have frequently said lineage is the hardest problem of data engineering to solve. And as yet has not been solved, as far as I'm aware of, in any real meaningful way. And I think part of that largely has to do with understanding the data context. But in addition to that, there's also this instilling of the meaning and what does this data say, right? It's a schema, but it means something to someone. And that source of truth can move through the system and mean different things to different people at different places. And all of those are valid. And capturing that is very hard. And we have a lot of data, as you can quite well imagine, and managing all of that's hard. Data engineering is sort of the steward of all of that data, but really it's more like people create data we're responsible for in a way, but that's not ours. So it's very complicated. And that makes it very hard sometimes to be able to support our stakeholders. If they want to know where this piece of data comes from, it's difficult to figure that out. And so I would say our problems are very similar to other places that I've been. So what do we need? We need data search and discovery. One of the things that our stakeholders have frequently said is, I don't understand how to find my data. How do I know what data I need? And that is a large problem for us. There's also the idea of like data engineering can't know everything about all the data. So we need to be able to allow users to go in and add meaning to this data in a way that can be augmented later. We need to have a better idea of what's happening within our system. Often if a pipeline goes down, it has impacts downstream, and we like to be able to better communicate with people, and as well as look for hotspots, like, can we improve things? Can we do things better? So there's that need there. And then the holy grail, Indian lineage. We need it, everyone needs it, and that is something that is critical for us. So what about DataHub got me excited? Honestly, I learned about DataHub maybe 5 weeks ago, if that. And since then, I've come to realize search and data lineage is just built in, right? All I have to do is inject the data as we have it, either through recipes that already exist or my own custom data that I'm injecting. We can set up governance policies to help ease the burden on data engineering, empower our users, really do important things for them. And what I love best about this is one of the things that I've noticed is that managing metadata is not only a complex process, it requires kind of flexibility in thinking about it. Some data you want to push and have sent to the system as it occurs. A lot of times you also need to pull in data because you need to either populate your system or augment it with data that's not available through a standard recipe. And this really gives us the flexibility to really kind of bootleg our metadata system up, because choosing one or the other has been sort of why I think one of the reasons why we haven't been able to really get to the level that we need for our teams. So I'll talk a little bit now about how our POC went. It was really, really easy, actually. We pushed the Docker container into our dev environment. We used Bedrock. It fit right in. It was really, we had a couple of like configuration things that we had to work through, but overall very easy. We implemented like the standard Airflow and Hive recipes. I myself had been extracting over the last couple of years metadata regarding our backend tools. So we have it's like a mode type product, but it's developed internally. So I was able to pull the metadata from there and inject it in. And then I also was able to do some simple SQL parsing. So I didn't use an Antler parser or anything like that. I simply used some regex to get us an idea of how we could get that table relationships created. Now, like Srishanka said earlier, there is now a parser that I'm really interested in trying, so I will go back and retrofit that. But really, it was easy to deploy and everything just worked. And we've been working on this for 6 years now, and we were able to do in 3 days what we had trouble doing for those entire 6 years. Now, I had a team of very awesome developers that helped me. We worked on it as a hack day project for just very recently, actually at the beginning of this month. And everyone on the team is super excited about where we are. So for those that are in the channel listening to this speech, I really appreciate you. And I'm super excited about what we did and what we accomplished. So why is DataHub the right choice? My excitement about this tool is like literally contagious. I start shaking. I get so excited because I am a huge metadata enthusiast. I've used it not only for like reporting or like trying to monitor systems, but like using metadata to drive systems, using metadata to do transformations dynamically. Like I adore this. And this tool is so flexible. The data model itself is extensible, which I love. It's based on a graph network, which is the way metadata should be represented. It is, to me, just mind-blowingly good. So I am very excited, and my excitement definitely spills over to the team and to the company. And I think that this is a really good choice for us. So if you have any questions about what I've done, I kind of went through this pretty quickly. Feel free to reach out to me on the Slack channel in DataHub or the Acral team, who has been super supportive as well. I wanted to be sure to call that out. Every question we've had, every, things that we've needed, they've been so helpful. They gave me feedback on this presentation. So I'm grateful for all of their support as well. And with that, I ended in 10 minutes.
So, yay, guys, let's give Nedra some love in the comments and give her a round of applause. Yay. Nedra, this is so good. So I see we have some questions in the chat, so I will let you take care of that. But everybody, let's first say thank you to Nedra and make sure that you connect to her. She has been absolutely a dream to work with. So Nedra, thank you so much. And like I said, thanks to Slack, we're all here. So we really appreciate you guys. Okay, thank you, Nedra. All right, so I am back and we are now going to move on to the next part of our agenda. So let me go back here. And so I think most of you guys know that we were recently at Snowflake. Could I get a raise of hand? How many of you went to Snowflake Summit? You can either say I in chat or raise your hand. Who was at Snowflake? Just like raise your hand. I'm just curious to see. Any Snowflake people? Yeah, we have a few. Okay, so we had a few people. All right, so as you guys know, I think this is our first boot at Snowflake, so we're pretty excited. And so given the fact that Snowflake has kind of become the industry standard event, I think for a lot of DEs, we thought it'd be great to have Srishanka come up and share some of his ideas with you. So let me just go grab him really quickly, and then we will go from there. Give me a second. Let me go find him in the comments and just pin him. Oops, hold on. Okay, hold on here. Srishanka, let us put you up here. All right, Srishanka's up. All right, Srishanka.
Cool. All right, I'll keep it short and sweet. Nedra was absolutely on time, and I tend to go long, so we'll keep it quick. Favorite moments at Snowflake Summit? This was actually Acrel's first presence at an industry conference, at an industry summit. So, a lot of us were very interested in knowing about what that experience feels like. I mean, I have obviously spoken at a lot of conferences, but I would just go do the talk, hang out at the sessions, go to the booths and just grab some swag for my family or for myself and then leave. This was very different for me and for most of our team as well, because we were setting up a booth. It was, it's a rite of passage, I think, for all companies. So it was fun. And, the highlight for me personally was actually when Benoit and Thierry, who I actually know from a past life, just randomly were walking across and they stopped by our booth and we got to take a picture and we got to chat metadata as well. So that was a really special kind of highlight for me personally. But for the team, there were a lot of other highlights as well. We started out with, our Mr. John Joyce opening up our booth. There was nothing there other than just a bunch of swag and a bunch of material that had been shipped in. And we were like, okay, let's get started. This feels like day zero again. And then, very soon we had the whole booth set up. We had a few people that had to get flown in last minute. Elizabeth didn't know that morning that she was going to be in Vegas 2 hours later. And, Swaroop even put on a suit because he had to actually go give a talk. So that was fun. And then the demo started rolling in and it was actually quite busy. People knew they were drawn to, obviously, the DataHub logo, as well as the fact that we are doing data governance and data quality. And everyone, of course, is interested in that. And John and Maggie were both kind of really busy giving lots and lots of demos. And both of them pretty much lost their voice by the end of the evening. And our happy hour had nothing to do with that, right? We were also lucky because we were right next to like a big giant spinning wheel and there was a lot of coffee and snacks right next to our booth. So people would stand in line, they would look at the crowds and then they would come in and talk to us. So it was fun. The thing, so we can go to the next slide. The thing that from the booth, as we were kind of retroing on, hey, what did we learn? What did we hear? The thing that actually took me by surprise, even though I kind of knew it, and Swaroop was, it was Swaroop's second Snowflake Summit, so he kind of really hit it home in terms of the difference he saw between last year and this year. One thing we saw repeatedly was like everyone knew about DataHub. People were walking up to us, even random people we met. They were like, yeah, we know DataHub. And so community members were coming in, and in some cases, they were doing better demos than some of us. So that was very interesting to watch. Not demos, but kind of explaining what the difference that DataHub has made to their lives in their companies. So that was just infectious, and it filled us with so much optimism and happiness because we've done some meaningful work. We live for impact, and there's nothing more that satisfies a creator than seeing things that you're building actually get adopted and used. So that was really nice to watch. But let's talk about the space. The thing that we heard repeatedly around the metadata space as we were talking, as we were conversing with even data leaders and data practitioners was data governance, data quality. These are very related problems. We need kind of a unified solution to it. Business users and technical users, they have been kind of split apart. They live in different worlds. We need to bring them together to accomplish these goals. We cannot solve them independently. And with the new focus on AI, governance of AI itself is becoming a new thing, right? So people are already starting to worry about, okay, we're going to have LLMs. We're going to have so much faster, productive ML. How do we make sure it's all being done in the right way? How do we make sure we actually understand what we're putting out into the world? And on the flip side, looking at the booth, we were just a very small matchstick booth. Like, sure, we had a lot of people showing up and we had long lines. But if you look at the space, there were so many vendors and so many solutions in the combined space. It's clear that this problem is real. And a lot of companies are trying to tackle it. Collibra had a giant booth. Alation had a giant booth. All these companies, Atlan, Monte Carlo, so many companies were there. And they were all trying to together somehow try to solve this problem. So that was really nice to watch, that there continues to be a lot of vendors, a lot of solutions trying to solve this space. What was also unique for me is that to notice was we are the only open core offering with this massive community of adopters. And that's pretty cool to see that we're the only company that's doing it somewhat differently than everyone else. The only open core offering with a massive community of adopters. And that was fun to kind of see in practice on the floor where, there's thousands of solutions and thousands of companies trying to solve similar problems. So that was the booth learnings. Now let's talk about Snowflake announcements and learnings from that for the space. And that's the next slide. Miko, can you hit next?
I think we may have lost Miko.
My talks usually don't put people to sleep. Can everyone see my slide deck?
No, we're still seeing Miko's, I think.
Yeah.
I just switched it to yours, Shashanka, I think.
Okay.
Yep,
Can you see
we're back.
my slide?
Yep.
Okay. So there were a bunch of significant announcements for the metadata space in particular. And some of this is actually available on the Snowflake release history as well. The first is on access history. They're making it easier to track when policies are being used for access. So you're able to not only see what columns got accessed, what tables got accessed, but which policies were in effect when those when those objects were accessed. So it makes it easier for governance and compliance related use cases to understand who's accessing what data and which policies are affecting that access. The second thing that was interesting was dynamic tables. So this is basically the ability for you to essentially register queries or table definitions that are really defined as dynamic queries. If some of you are from the DBT space, you might be thinking, well, that's just a DBT model. Yeah, basically. So registering those into Snowflake and then having Snowflake maintain those tables for you. So I think it's interesting. We'll see how that goes if the community starts picking it up. They'll, of course, want discovery of that and then being able to see kind of lineage across that. A bunch of interesting things around schema evolution and schema detection for both unstructured or semi-structured data, as well as for streaming data. So Snowflake is actually rolling out schema evolution and schema detection for Kafka-based ingestion in the Snowpipe ecosystem as well. One thing that is very interesting, I think, for us is Snowflake is supporting metrics, and this is still very early stage right now. They even haven't done a big announcement on this, but I was catching up with the governance product team, and they're rolling out some very interesting things. And metrics are going to become a first-class citizen in Snowflake, and that's interesting because that allows for data quality specifications to get pushed down, and it perhaps even opens up the space for consistency of metrics by just defining them in one place in the first place. And then, of course, there were big announcements around machine learning running inside Snowpark directly. And that is interesting because it relates to the global announcements that they made, which is on the next slide. Containers is officially a thing for Snowflake, which allows compute to live closer to data. So machine learning workloads can run closer to where the data lives. And that perhaps means even metadata operations can run closer to where data lives. Metadata often tends to be easy to extract at the beginning. And then as you get more and more complex types of metadata, like data profiles and data quality statistics, you want to run more and more compute on the data. And so containers, I think, bring interesting capabilities to us that we didn't have before. And then, of course, there were LLMs everywhere, right? Whether it's unstructured data analysis or being able to support text to answers. There's a lot of investment that Snowflake is putting into LLMs, and you must have seen that showing up in the announcements. And I think that's interesting for us long term, but short term, a lot of the stuff that I talked about in the previous slide are very interesting for us right away. And for the community, I think, because you're all going to see it get turned on in your Snowflake instances and people are going to start using it. So why is this exciting for us? I think it's exciting for us because, our vision is to become a control plane for data. And what a control plane needs is the ability to translate higher level logical specifications into the data plane. And the better the data plane becomes, so Snowflake, for example, is one of many systems that comprise the data plane. And the more operations that Snowflake can support that are native to Snowflake, the easier the job is for the control plane, because then the operators can be simpler. They can push down most of this work effectively. So whether it is setting up tag-based access policies or setting up extraction of metadata or setting up quality functions directly inside the warehouse, the operator can become so much simpler, which means the control plane can spread wider and become much more valuable very quickly. So this is something that's super exciting for us, because when we see platforms upgrading their capabilities and offering governance and quality capabilities natively within the platform, it makes our job much easier. And that was my takeaways. And hopefully this was useful for you all to see where things are interesting for us and where they're going next.
All right. Thank you so much, Shashank. And guys, I'm so sorry. I had I always call it the Armageddon, right? Zoom Armageddon. I just disappeared. So sorry about that. Shashanka, thank you so much. And so what I want to do next is, I know you guys are super familiar with Heijen. As many of you guys know, she is in, I believe, Korea. She's become my new teammate, but she did an awesome video for you guys. So what I want to do is I want to go ahead and share that for you guys. Just give me 1 minute here. Go ahead.
Miko, I just had a kind of time-based decision I think we should make. Since we have only 15 minutes left, I suggest we just post the pre-recording of this video to the channel later, and we go over to the live talks right after this. So we just skip this particular
that's perfectly
section.
fine. So let me then move on. So I'll move on from that. So what I will do, guys, is and ladies and gentlemen, is I'll go ahead and post the I had the video ready to go. So give me 1 second. I'll go ahead and post the video up, and you guys will be able to consume that separately. Okay, so let's go ahead and move on there. I do have a question before we get started, though. How many of you are going to, what events are you guys going to this year? I just want to hear the chat. I'm just curious. Can you guys kind of post and tell us what events you guys are planning to attend for the rest of the year in the chat? Let me get the slideshow going here. All right, so if we're gonna just post Heijen's talk, why don't we move on to bring up Sarup? Sarup, are you there?
Yep. Let me share the screen.
Okay, awesome. And I'm gonna go ahead and pin you to the screen. So Sarup actually did this talk, I believe, at the Snowflake conference, which is pretty cool. So you guys are gonna get kind of a mini version, whether or not you were able to attend. So without further ado, let's go ahead and bring up Sarup. Yay! And I'll go ahead and pin you to the screen. All right.
All right. Hello, everyone. I'm Swaroop, CEO and co-founder of Actual Data. As you all know, DataHub was started by my co-founder Shashanka at LinkedIn. Actual was formed to advance the DataHub project with investment from LinkedIn. So we are actively driving the project, and we also offer Actual Cloud, which offers managed DataHub as one of the offerings and is being used by many enterprise customers. So I want to talk about shift left governance really quickly here. This is a slightly longer talk for the time that we have, so I'm going to breeze past some of the slides here. So the first thing I want to say is old school governance in the current context is broken. What people often forget is it was actually easier back in the day when the stack was much more monolithic and the data team was much more centralized. And with all of the innovation that has happened in the last few years, the data stack today is highly fragmented and specialized. The other thing that has happened is data development has decidedly been decentralized. We no longer have the case that a small central team is doing data development for the entire company. And as a result, some of the traditional roles have split apart. Data operations and data governance have become distinct roles. And usually the data operations is handled by individual business units. And data governance is often a completely forgotten responsibility in many of the organizations. So today, while we are able to ship data products really fast because of all of the new velocity, some of the aspects are either done much later, if at all. For example, if you're developing an AI model, thinking of things like, does this depend on PII in the features that are being used to train the model? Those types of things are rarely taken into account when you're developing. It's usually done much later, if at all. So essentially, we have a lot of velocity now, but as Nedra was saying in our talk, the shared context is disappearing between the producers and consumers. So producers have a lot of context about the data that they're producing. For example, in an e-commerce company, if someone's producing a purchase event, they know whether it's coming from a signed in user or someone who's logged out. But that context does not capture the entirety of what we need for the consumers. The consumers often have much more deeper understanding of the business context. For example, a downstream AI engineer will have much deeper understanding of the freshness requirements for this model and so on. So what has happened is, while we have a lot of velocity now because the worlds don't meet, there's a ton of confusion, and there is no way for the consumers to place the shared context that is needed in the developers' pathways, and that's what is causing this kind of a split brain scenario in which we are developing data products today. So what is the solution? We need a way to continuously monitor the standards that are being set by the central team, and we still need it to be federated. We don't want to go back to the the heavy-handed ways of a central data team bottlenecking everything, but we absolutely need a common way to describe all of the standards that any production-facing data products have to meet. So I'll give you a quick example based on a stack with Snowflake and DBT just to drive this home. So we already have these capabilities in DataHub. For those who are not familiar, DBT developers can just stay in DBT and not even be aware that there's a catalog within the company. They describe important context in their DBT models, and the context is automatically transmitted to the catalog. Similarly, when they're about to make changes, the impact analysis context about all the dashboards or all the downstream machine learning models that are going to be impacted by this change, that is brought in line into the pull request. And DBT tests are also something that are automatically reflected in the DataHub experience today. So Actual actually provides a few more capabilities: metadata tests, having the ability for you to define the standards for any production quality data product, and continuously monitor whether all of production facing data products are meeting those standards or not. So let's dive into the flow using some of these capabilities. The central team, which is much smaller now, in consultation with all the business teams, will define the standards for what a tier 1 data product is. And through continuous monitoring, you are able to flag the tier 1 data products. And then using the observability module that is now available in Actrel, you can monitor data quality aspects and can infer things like, okay, what is the typical landing time of this? And if there are any anomalies, you can alert the data owners. But reactive monitoring alerting is not enough. What you need is a much more proactive way to address these things. And that's where data contracts come in. Herschel is going to dive into this in a bit more detail, so I'll keep this one brief. As a quick refresher, data contracts allow you to specify constraints on things like schema, freshness, data quality checks, and so on. So what we can do is take into account all the signals that are being generated by the Actrel Observe module and proactively raise a pull request for a data contract. So going back to the AI development example, you can actually raise a pull request which says that the event that is required to generate the training data for this fraud detection model needs to land every hour. So those types of constraints you can actually express as a data contract. And after the consumers are able to collaborate and agree on the freshness requirements for a certain upstream table, the producer will merge that in, and that becomes like an enforced contract. So just to bring this home, this is the full flow. The Actrel monitoring engine generates the initial recommendations, which are necessary to propose a data contract. And then through the right producer-consumer collaboration workflow, a pull request is raised for the producer, who can then merge in, and using DBT's native capabilities like data contracts and DBT tests, the contract is actually enforced. So I breezed through this, and Herschel's going to get into more details, but what I wanted to highlight is we're actively working with many design partners for this. Please collaborate with us if you're interested. Sign up on actrel.io. It is possible to actually maintain velocity while also keeping in mind governance goals. You don't have to give up on data governance. That's it. Over to you, Miko.
Thank you, Sarup. That was awesome, guys. Give him a hand here. That was essentially a short version of what Sarup did at the Snowflake Summit. So you guys were honored, Sarup. Good stuff. And so I know, guys, we are running a little bit behind here. And so if you guys will be troopers, I put it in the chat. We're probably going to need an extra 5 minutes because we're going to rock and roll with Harshil and Chris. You guys do not want to miss this. He's going to cover contracts for DBT. Harshil will. And then Chris is going to obviously do what Chris does, which I heard is quite amazing stuff. So if you guys hang in there with us, we're going to rock and roll. Okay, Harshil, you ready to roll?
Yeah,
Where is Harshil? You are. All right, let me go ahead and pin you up. Okay, guys, we are going to rock and roll through this, and the floor is yours. Let's go.
Great. Yeah, so Sarup kind of touched on this broadly. Data contracts are all about setting those expectations between producers and consumers. The important thing is that they have to be verifiable. Basically, if we can't check it, it's not really part of the data contract. It's part of like a more broad data product. And we talked about this in the May town hall. So, that's kind of the DataHub stance on how these things should operate and how they should work together. Now, if we think about data contracts as a set of like checks or assertions that we want to, enforce and verify, it's not enough for them to be verifiable. We also have to actually do the verification of them. Simply, they should be monitored, or ideally, they should be enforced, so that the bad data doesn't ever even get produced. So, normal flow here is, Acrel might propose a contract, or you might write that, and then you'll store those in Git, sync those with DataHub. But then there's this question of like who actually does that evaluation? How does the data producer say, hey, I wrote this check that this table should land once every hour? How do I actually check that continuously and make sure that we get an alert if it goes wrong? So normally people will use things like DBT or Great Expectations to kind of evaluate these tests or evaluate those assertions. And then we already have capabilities to push those results into DataHub. But keeping the assertion evaluations in sync with the data contracts is kind of a pain. And so what if DataHub could be that orchestrator? What if it could keep these things in sync? And then even better, what if you didn't even need to set up an assertion evaluator? What if DataHub could just do that for you as well? And so that's what this new flow is all about. It's DataHub will actually go to your DBT project, raise a PR that will enforce the contract that you actually want to enforce. And then also the Acrel Observe, we can actually just enforce like natively defined assertions continuously and in real time. And so I'll give a quick demo of this first piece of what does it look like to raise a PR to DBT to enforce a data contract. Great. So over here, I have a data contract. It has a freshness check, a schema check, and we can also add data quality rules and things like that. But for now, we'll just focus on freshness and schema. I've actually already pushed these into DataHub, and so we see the data contract here, and I clicked approve, so now it's pending implementation. Great. Once there's like a DataHub or GitHub action that will run, and that will open up a PR against my DBT repo, and that will add or implement this data contract in your DBT test or in as a DBT contract. And so specifically, the column checks will go in as DBT contracts, the data type and the not null constraints. And then the table freshness will come in as a DBT test. And it will convert like that cron expression that I had, which was every 5 minutes, into an actual check that we can run on the SQL warehouse to verify whether or not this stuff is actually fresh. And that way, you don't have to keep these things in sync. DataHub manages the orchestration, and you get to enforce data contracts without really thinking about it. Quick plug, it will also tell you if you're using the impact analysis action, will also tell you what the downstream impact of these changes were. Obviously, this one doesn't actually impact anything. So it just says one thing changed. But if I was modifying the SQL as well, you could also see the downstream impact. So really, it's about meeting developers in the tools that they're already in, but also keeping everything in sync so that you don't end up with the whole tangled mess. All right. So that's all I wanted to show. I'll hand it over to Chris.
Yay! Okay, cool. All right. So thank you guys. Give Harshal a round of applause. Thank you for pulling that together, Rockstar. I see all the love in the comments here. I see Kevin's like beautiful crying. Yeah, I think we all feel the same. So there's a lot of love, Harshal, in the comments, and I think there's one question. So without further ado, we are going to finish strong. I'm gonna hand you guys over to Krish, and he is going to talk about what's coming to Acrel, subscription and notifications, and then I have a few announcements, and we're gonna get you guys out of here. So thank you for hanging in there. All right, Chris, rock and roll time. Let's get you up here. Yay! Let's give him a round of applause. Let's go.
All right, thanks, Miko. Let me share my screen really quick. Cool. Look good? The slideshow going? All right. Hey, everyone. So today I'm going to be talking about a new feature coming soon to Acrel Managed DataHub, subscriptions and notifications. All right, so this is actually good timing since we now have that video that Miko is about to post from Heijin around the DataHub Actions Framework. I definitely suggest checking that out at this town hall, by the way. So some of you may know, we already do support the ability to configure notifications for different sync systems using this Actions Framework. In fact, we already received a nice presentation and demo of this from our very own Shashanka at last November's town hall. So go check that out. It's in the November town hall video that's posted on our YouTube channel. So using this Actions Framework, you can configure different actions to take place based on certain events, such as sending a message to a Slack channel when a new tag is added to an entity. However, this does require some dev work on your side to configure these actions. But I will say we do have some handy guides in our docs site for doing this for Slack as well as Microsoft Teams. Links are there at the bottom of the slide, or you can just search for it on our docs site itself. Since Managed DataHub, Acrel DataHub focuses on providing out-of-the-box solutions for our customers, we ended up building on top of this framework, introducing a new concept of subscriptions to entities and notifications that we generate based on those subscriptions. So you may be asking yourself, all right, Chris, what the heck are these subscriptions you're talking about? And I'm here to tell you, subscriptions are basically a new way to configure notifications that you want to receive for different events on specific entities in DataHub. So with subscriptions, you'll be able to subscribe to different entities that matter most to you and receive only the notifications that you care about for each of those entities. You'll also be able to go in and check out your own list of subscriptions that you have to quickly find these entities, and you configure those notifications that best match your use case. To start, we're going to support receiving notifications for some of the most classic DataHub events around health and governance. You can see here in the screenshot on the left that will support receiving notifications for if an entity is deprecated, assertion status changes, so if it changes from passing to failing, or vice versa. Incident status changes, so like if an incident is raised, resolved, or reopened. Schema changes around columns being added, removed, or modified. Owners being added, removed. Glossary terms added, removed, or proposed. Tags added, removed, or proposed as well. To start, in V1, we will be supporting Slack notifications with these subscriptions, but soon we're planning on also supporting both email as well as Microsoft Teams. Cool. All right, let's hop ourselves into a little demo of this new feature. Let me get over here. Okay, so for the sake of demo time, I've already gone in and configured the Slack integration for our instance, as well as default member and channel IDs to send these notifications to. Instructions on how to do that are actually already on our docs site, so no worries there. So for this, let's say as an individual, I know about one data set that's very important and has a lot of usage in our organization. I really want to ensure that nothing around its health is updated without me being notified. So let's say in this case, that data set is called pet profiles. I know that it is that. And it's the snowflake table right here. So here I'm going to click this new little star on the right that allows me to open up a subscriptions drawer. where I can opt into any subscription or any notifications that I care about for this entity. So in this situation, let's say I care about deprecation, care about assertion status changes, and definitely incident status changes as well. These other notifications are definitely important, but maybe not for my use case around this specific table that I really care about. I already configured my default member ID to send notifications to, and I'm just going to use the default. All right, so now that I've subscribed, I can go in here and just raise an incident. So I'm just going to call this new incident with a testing for you all description. And once I click add, I got to move some stuff really quick. Here we go. And I'm going to open up Slack. You can see I just received, as of 1:04 p.m., which it is for me, a new incident was raised by admin on this data set. And you can click it. And if I go back and I click resolve this incident, that was a false alarm. Just a test. You can see I go back and I just received that notification for that incident status changing yet again, changing from active to resolved. All right, let's go back. So for scenario 2, I'm going to walk you guys through another one. Let's say I'm also a member of a group in our organization called the Data Governance Team, whose main goal is, you guessed it, data governance. I know of a data set as well that contains some PII, and I want to ensure that I'm notified when anything governance related is updated to that data set. So I'm going to look for that data set here. It's called customers. I'm going to use this snowflake table. And so here I'm going to subscribe as a group. And my group is called Data Governance Team. And here I'm going to subscribe to anything that's around data governance related. So specifically, I care about owner changes, glossary term changes, as well as tag changes here. I'm going to turn on Slack notifications, and then I have a channel already configured for this team as the default. So now that we're subscribed here, I'm going to just add a new owner. There's a user in my instance called DataHub. And then if I add that, you can see if I go to Slack in this new channel that I set up called Subscriptions for Town Hall, I just received a notification that admin has been added to owners for this data set customers. Very, very exciting. Yeah, so you can see we're receiving these notifications based on these subscriptions itself. Finally, if you wanted to check out all the subscriptions that you have for either yourself or your team, you can always go to the new My Subscriptions tab, see everything in here. From here, you can always edit a subscription. You can unsubscribe from something if you set it, like if you're tired of it, for example, all that good stuff. Cool. So that's it for my demo. Let me go back to the slideshow. And then here. All right. So right now we're in the finishing stages of V1 of this project and plan on getting this to our Acro customers in the next 3 to 4 weeks. After this is released, we plan on tackling email notifications as well as Microsoft Teams notifications, like I said before, all integrated with our new subscriptions feature. And that's it for me. Thanks, everyone. And back to you, Miko.
Yay, guys, give Chris a round of applause. I know that we are running short here. Shashanka, you were going to go ahead and say something. Let me pin you up real quick.
Sure. Yeah, I was just going to jump in and say that, while this feature has been built for Acro first, we're kind of iterating on it, trying to make sure we understand what kind of experiences work best. Some things are probably always going to stay Acro only, but we'll obviously have like a version of this that is more generic and easy to consume that we will drop into the open source project at some point. Just not very clear exactly what the shape of that will be, but stay tuned for announcements there. But like Chris was saying, the Lego blocks are there for you. The actions framework is there. You could connect them together and accomplish a lot of this yourself. But we'll try to make it simpler for you all, of course. All right.
All right.
To you,
okay. Thank you so much. Okay, guys. So I just want to say, first of all, thank you guys for hanging in there. We still have more than half of our crowd. Now, as I mentioned to you guys, one of the things that is coming up next is we are going to be doing our town halls on LinkedIn Live. So I wanted to do a shameless plug here to ask you guys, if you have not already, I'm putting in the chat to take a minute to please follow our page. Not that we're not going to be posting the group, obviously, but we would like you guys to be on there, and then hopefully you bring a friend. And I just want to say thank you. Thank you for everybody who attended. Thanks to the Acro team for pulling this together, for Nedra for being open and sharing her story with us. And we appreciate that. And so we'll see you guys next month. Thank you guys so much. And if you have any questions, Shashanka particularly posted, I'm trying to get the channel name within Slack. I think you said it's Talk Data Contracts. Did I get that right, Shashanka?
Yeah. Yep.
Talk data contract. So if you guys want to move the conversation, doesn't have to end over into Slack. You guys can go over there now and we can finish talking about what we had here. Otherwise, you guys have an awesome, awesome day. Thank you guys. All right. Thanks, everybody. Take care. Bye-bye. Thank you.